Okay. Okay, perfect. So, thank you for your kind introduction. I'm Marcello Laurenti, and today I'm going to show you my research about mechanical properties prediction and optimization through AI of 3D printed SLA truth-like lattice structure. So, let's begin. First thing first, I was going to explain you why this research was being born to begin with. As you well know, additive manufacturing is an iterative process that starts with the design of the piece you want to manufacture. It follows the actual manufacturing of the aforementioned specimen, and once you have tested enough of the specimen, you can build what is so-called a weak modeling solution. And together with some practical consideration, you can modify your design or you can modify your manufacturing process. And this kind of loop continues until you reach your desired quality and your desired mechanical properties. But this process is very costly, both in time and in money. Since, for example, dealing with SLM printing, we are talking about a lot of money for each print. And as you well know, additive manufacturing is very susceptible to very small changes of the input process parameters. And that's worsened when you add very complex geometry, for example, topologies such as lattice, because there is an interaction between topology and print parameters. And for example, what can happen are some macro defects or more importantly, some micro defects, such as microvoids, underpolymerization, or lack of fusion in SLM printing. And that influences hugely both static and dynamic behavior of the components. So here, to break free from this cycle, we have to improve the modeling solution. It doesn't have to be a weak model, but it has to be a strong model. So it can break at the first iteration of this loop. So I'm going to investigate the lattice structure because they're a very hot topic in the recent years, because they find a lot of application in aerospace since they are very lightweight and they retain good mechanical properties. And they're also used in the biomedical application to fine-tune the mechanical properties of the prosthetic objects. So, sorry. Okay, so this is the overview of my work. We start with the experimental design. We dive into the deep learning modeling used in this work, and we finished with the genetic optimization of the mechanical properties of those lattice. So let's dive in with the first part. Here, there is the design of experiment using in this work. It's very simple. It's based on a standard hypercube. I have considered 5 different types of lattice cells. This is a preliminary study, so this will be expanded in the future. So we have the most common ones, the BCC, XCC, diamond, fluorite, and octet. 3 different lattice cells. And 5 different printing layer thickness, because we are dealing with SLA printing. So ranging from 10 microns to 100 microns, and 2 different printing orientation, both in axis with printing direction and orthogonal fluid, for a grand total of 136 specimens. So after printing, just for completion, since this specimen are very porous and we are dealing with a batch polymerization, we have to separate properly the unpolymerized resin and solvent after with a centrifugal separator. After separation, we have to post-cure it with an UV bath, and after that, we have tested the specimen under a static test using a 10 kilonewtons instrument machine. And here, there are the results about the test performed, and they are very in line with the literature. We see common behavior. For example, the BCC cell shows a low stiffness and high energy absorption, but that's no wonder because it has a very bending-dominated mechanics. And inside octet cells, that they have a mixed behavior because they have also a lot of straight pillars that act stretching dominated regions. So those kind of cells are high in stiffness and high in load bearing. And that's just to show you that the manufacturing was done correctly. So we can move to the next section. So here we decided to treat the mechanical response not by modeling the whole stress strain curve, but just modeling some pivotal points, such as, for example, stiffness, yield, energy absorption, and the UTS of the materials. So in order to do so, we had to improve a lot in complexity our AI model, since the task itself is very complex. We are dealing with both topology and print parameters. So we have to improve the model. In this case, we had to use an handhead statistical boosting neural network. So it's a neural network, by definition. It's a handhead, so it has one specialized head for each mechanical property that it's trying to predict. It's statistical, since here we are trying to model a process that is inherently stochastic, since it's a partially observed Markov process. We are not knowing everything about the process, so we cannot use a prediction that is deterministic. We have to use something that is statistical to truly capture the dynamics of the process. And the neural network itself is boosting, so we have several models, and each one of them is modeling the error of the previous model. So this boosts a lot the accuracy of the overall model. On top of that, we use a common backbone for the head to fully stabilize the prediction. Okay, so it's just a numerical stabilizer, but it's also boosts the accuracy. And on top of the backbone, we use also an encoder to further compress the input data into a meaningful latent space. And all of these models have been optimized both in hyperparameters and in trained parameters using a Bayesian algorithm search. So about the architecture, the encoder is just an autoencoder, but not used by using the decoder, but by using the encoder. So it just maps the inputs into a meaningful and compressed latent space. In this case, it's a Gaussian ball-spaced shaped space. As main blocks of the architecture, we have the multi-layer perception, so a very simple block. But I've chosen this block because it's very customizable. And in this case, it has been widely customized in its length, because we have added expansion and compression regions very similar to what we find in the human brain, since this wiring allows the buildings of local space, latent space inside the neural network itself. And this helps with representation, it helps with accuracy, and it lowers the computational time and memory footprints. So this is the whole pipeline. Of course, we have to pre-train the variational encoder and the backbone. And after done that, we have moved on with the main model training. And this pipeline is very fast, it's fully automatic. And once it has finally converged, we have moved into the next section of the work. No. So here are the predictions, for example, for the rigidity, the UTS strength, and the energy absorption of the metastasis. And as you can see, the predictions are good. We are talking about a 1.8 megapascal of mean absolute error for Young values and 0.1 megapascal for ultimate tensile strength. But what is nice is that those results aren't just scatter plots, but it's also present a confidence region here that is just a one-dimensional projection of a 2D statistical distribution. And that's very nice because it allows you to do some statistical consideration about what you are seeing. For example, the lower bound, upper bound, confidence region, whatever you like. So it's very useful for engineering purposes. So just to show you further the accuracy of this network, this is what it happens when you try to reconstruct the real curve. And mind that this model hasn't been built to be able to do this, but this is just to show you how accurate and how stable it is, because it also do good in a task that it wasn't even think to perform well. So once I've demonstrated that this model is actually accurate, I can also use this kind of modeling solution to investigate the inner mechanics of the process that I'm observing. For example, here, by using Shape values, I can extract how input parameters affects the overall toughness and the overall scatter of the toughness of the materials. And for example, we can see here a positive interaction for the octet and fluoritic cell, but that's no wonder because they are very dense and they have a mixed bending and stretching behavior. We can see also an interaction with a lattice cell. So a small lattice cell increase the overall toughness, but we see a lot of noise here in the resolution, hinting that the resolution is interacting with other parameters. And I'll show you in the next slide with what is interacting. But what is interesting is that also the scatter increase for both by decreasing the cell size and by both decreasing the resolution. And that's very counterintuitive because we are increasing the overall toughness, but we are increasing also the scatter. So our specimen is much more prone to defects. So why that? There is an interaction, an obvious interaction inside our problem. And by studying the interaction by using shock values, this is just a double interaction. But we can see here, it has almost fully decoupled the contribution, and it isn't fully decoupled because probably it's a triple or quadruple interaction, and it's very hard to plot it in 2D space. So there is some synergistic effect between the topology, the cell size, and the resolution. But why that? The motivation is very simple, because the octet cell is very dense. And when I decrease further the cell size, I increase a lot the density of the cell. As since after washing, I had to post-cure the specimen, the light wasn't fully reaching the inside of the component. So inside there is a lot of regions under polymerized. And this was fully confirmed by observing the fracture surfaces of the specimen, because inside it wasn't fully polymerized. But what's interesting is that this analysis was able, the model was able to do this analysis by only observing data. So that's really interesting because it fully captured the inner mechanics of the process. But that's just for modeling. Now let's dive in for optimization, because now we have confirmed that our model works. So we can use it as a virtual environment to do some optimization of mechanical properties. So in this case, I use genetic algorithm. So you have your input parameters, for in this case, topological and process parameters. You encode it into blocks. Each block is a gene. Enough genes makes up a chromosome, and enough chromosomes make up the genome of the individuals. I initialize a population of individuals. I let them evolve through normal genetic evolution, such as mating, mutation, crossover, inversion, and so on. And at the end of the evolutionary process, I have the optimized mechanical properties. I have to evaluate each individual by its fitness, but in this case, it's very trivial because the fitness is the property that I'm targeting, so what I desire, and the model prediction. So the difference is the fitness. And since I wanted to explore a multi-objective optimization, I used the non-sorting genetic algorithm, the third version of it, to explore this min-max multi-objective problem. The third version is very nice because it also allows nesting, so you have some speciation in your population, and that's really nice in engineering settings because it gives you options, okay, completely different options. And in this case, it's a very simple, a toy case study. But for example, I'm gonna show you what happens if I try to design some protective personal equipment, such as some helmets. So I want to increase the overall energy absorbed. I want to decrease the density of the helmet, but I also want to decrease the delta between the ultimate tensile strength and the first drop of the lattice in strength. Why that? Because in that drop, it increases dramatically the acceleration. So if someone is wearing the helmet, it experiences a sudden increase in acceleration, and that can hurt or can kill the person wearing the helmet. So I want that to be slow more. So if I start the optimization, I am left with this very nice Pareto frontier. Okay, so I can choose 2 points of interest that in this case are maximizing the energy absorbed and are minimizing the drop. And I'm left with those very nice value for both topology and print parameters. those parameters are optimized, of course, for my printer, for my resin, and this case study. But if you apply this methodology to your work, you will find, of course, different coefficients, but it will work because it's very robust, this methodology that I just presented. So this, in conclusion, what I presented here is an end-to-end approach for both modeling and optimizing mechanical properties of virtually anything, lattice structure, but also any piece that you want to optimize. So the future works about this, because this is just a preliminary study. I want to extend the genetic algorithm capabilities to also hyperparameters optimization. This is something that I've already done in other work, and it's very promising. The results are really something, because the capabilities offered by the genetic algorithm are outstanding by any other means. I want also to extend the modeling capabilities to model also the whole mechanical behavior. So the whole curve, the whole strength stress curve. In this case, it wasn't possible because the task is very complex, but by using the model output as an integration and as a collocation point for a future physics-informed neural networks, those two networks could play a cooperative game, such very similar to GAN, but not one against the other, but cooperating. So that could work, and they could yield to very good results. And in the end, I want to extend the modeling capabilities of this framework also for additively manufactured SLM specimen, because since it has worked with plastic, it will work also with metals. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, just